You're listening to the Who is Christine Anyway podcast season 2. Today's guest is Mellyssa Woodward. Enjoy.
Everybody has that one weird edible story too. So like I didn't smoke pot until I was like in my 30s, which is kind of funny. Yeah, I didn't do it until I was in my 30s. My brother had enough fun for the both of us, which I love my brother and good for him. And it's just like, neat. So
Right, yeah.
I had went out to California. I had gotten, it makes me sound like I'm trafficking, but I'm not. I had snatched like 5 gummies from like a reputable place. At least I knew from there. It was legal here in New York, but I just didn't trust the reputability.
Mm-hmm. I still don't.
Yeah, I have issues. Trust issues. Covered in tattoos, and I have lots of trust issues.
Yep.
That should be my fucking bio on Facebook. So I took 1 gummy, 2 gummy, 3 gummy, 5. And I was like, these fucking things aren't working. I need chicken for dinner.
Oh my God.
So I get down there. Brent had went with me. And I walk in. And I knew something was amiss. When I step out of the car. And it's like when you step on a trampoline, like,
Uh-huh.
like, I was like, oh, it was funny. So I just start laughing. And I'm like, I'm just going to get chicken. This will be fine. This is cute. I'm just going to the giggles. This is cute. Fine. And I go in. And by the time I get back to the chicken breast packages, I'm like, I just need chicken breast. I push on it and it like similarly to the ground. It felt like my hand went so far into the earth. Oh. And I just hysterically lost my shit. Like, hysterically and historically laughing, like leaned on the cooler, legs crossed, trying not to piss myself, laughing.
Oh my God.
I am like to the point where I almost need to be like carried out. I'm red in the face. I can't, you get like to the point where you're laughing so hard.
And you can't breathe and it just comes out as a wheeze.
I'm like, and I'm like, I can't stop. Like
you can't even wheeze.
But at the same time, I'm like, I also want to touch the chicken again because that was really fucking cool. I don't remember if I got the chicken or not that day.
Oh no.
I know I didn't cook it.
Nope.
But that was oh my God, that was more than a few years ago. I can't remember. It was a little while back, but it was. So, R.I.P. place where Christine leaned on the cooler and almost pissed herself laughing. Oh my gosh, she took way too many of them. That was the only time I've ever done edibles, by the way.
I had a friend make me brownies. He doesn't live in New York anymore. And he's like, if you've never done it, only eat one, and he tells me the size, and I'm like, okay. Didn't feel anything. So I ate another one. He makes his stronger than the edibles that you would get out of a store.
Oh boy.
Thank God I didn't have to go anywhere the next day, because I'm just like, oh.
The thing is I really feel like weed has so many beneficial properties, and it wasn't I had been, smoking over where I was, I don't know, for work. I think it was for 3 months out in California working or whatever. And it's not like it was my first time ever. I just was unaware of the
body
metabolism situation. And I have a pretty decent metabolism. It's not amazing, it's not wonderful, but it was but yeah, I slept so good when I stopped laughing and could get home. It was just one of those things where it's just, but I'll never forget that, because I just remember, I'm like, I don't know why this chicken is squishy. I don't know why my fingers feel like they're going right to the bottom of this cooler. I'm in my mind, I'm like, this is making so much nonsense.
Right.
I don't get, and I'm like,
it's like you're Alice and you fell down the rabbit hole. I
fell down such a rabbit hole, about 5 gummies deep of a rabbit hole. And it was yep.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just always one
but
of
at that
those.
point, everything's just everything's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really do think though, finding the right strains are important.
Yeah, My brothers helped me find one that helps with the shoulder pain that I have. It helps me be able to sleep, so it actually relaxes.
Yeah. It's safer than so many of the other medications that are on the market too.
It's a plant.
Yeah, it's just
It
like
is a
going
plant.
outside. If you can drink like mint tea, why can't you smoke weed? So, but that's, and that's one of those things too, where it's like a lot of people are confused. So like, well, you advocate for this, but your brother's in, this, or, you have family with an addiction issue. And I'm like, right. So don't you think I would probably be one of the better people to, ask about this, because it's one of those things where it's like, my family had these issues and I could literally go down the thing. And it was, I also think about the people that are in jail for like whatever. That is such a, I don't want to say a petty crime, because there is a lot of drug trafficking into the country, but
Yeah.
you
Oh
think
my
about
God,
the
yeah.
kid that's like, oh, I got caught dealing weed. Now I'm in jail for 15 years. And it's like, maybe
Why?
we should revisit that conviction.
Yeah. Take another look.
Now we'll give you a job.
Right.
But I don't know. It's interesting. Living where we live and whatnot is interesting. And
Oh yeah.
it's a hard market for DIY. I won't say hard market for DIY. It's what, when I talk to other people,
Like it
in the
can
industry,
be.
in the platitude, when you go further up, it is I won't say dead market, but I would call it a gray market, because it's not dead and it's not dominant.
No, yeah, it's just kind of like, eh.
But the Northeast was formerly known as one of the biggest
Yeah.
stomping grounds for some of the biggest names that have developed through alternative music, rock, pop, all these other genres.
Yeah, because going up and down the East Coast, you could get so many
you hop on 81 or 87 and you're good to go. Like
and you have so many stops you can hit that'll be like, oh yeah, this is cool, bring it in, yeah.
Yeah, and it's developed into kind of like this really weird situation where it's like frustrating, I think, for a lot of people, especially the DIY community, where they try to go into communities and maybe some other small promoter has ruined that, and insurance companies are not willing to take that risk. And but I think a lot of them too, if they understood event insurance and even the value of getting like a fleet of 4 security guards in there to prevent
just
on the small
something.
and I'm talking like small scale, like I'm talking like a few hundred people, secure that up. And I don't mean like everything needs to be insane, just a couple people there to kind of
just be like, hey, settle.
Either that or escort people out respectfully. You know what I mean?
Be like, all right, you get one more and then you're out.
Yeah, like we will not be doing that here. And I think that those it's the same thing we talk about. Like, do you build it into the infrastructure of a DIY show? Okay, well now your break-even point is different. Okay, yeah, it's different. But at the same time, that small protection in the future causes you from losing a long-term venue and business that would be an ally. And it also prevents bands from ending up in lawsuits like the one that's going around the state right now. That's a larger scale promoter. Everybody should walk into a show. Everybody should walk out of a show. You know what I mean? Everybody in, everybody out, and you should be reasonably adhering to every single, code enforcement situation, whatever. I just, the communication is the key. And I understand with DIY, it's like, well, punk rock or die. I'm like, yeah, but how hard would it have been for you to walk into the code enforcement guy's office?
I mean, like, what do we need to do to make this happen?
There's that. And there's also, you have an unconditional. That is one of my favorite things to do, is to go into the towns and go, you have an unconditional to the code enforcement. And that way it's like, because, ingress, egress, all these other things, these safety things, the fire departments, these, there is so much that shows. I need to know where the fire is, fire exits are, how many people can go through each door at a time. I need to know a lot about a building, including from square footage. I need to have the blueprints.
Before you can even bring anything in.
Yeah, before you can even do it. And understanding the, the legality of okay, in catastrophic situations, how many people leave per second? When you look at things like Vegas and stuff that have happened where there have been mass casualties, you really want to make sure that does not happen. Now, obviously, we cannot predict the world, all these other things, but at the same time, I know that if something had happened in that venue where I was, if you had looked at the barricading, it was specially set that it had wings.
Oh.
It had wings that would have moved, and the back door was never fully latched, and it was like left at a certain crack level so that it could be whipped open. And that being a garage door would have also let a certain flow of people out per minute.
Yeah.
And that those numbers are calculated. Like, don't think those numbers aren't calculated. And not to mention the other doors throughout the building. And then it was really funny getting called into, like meetings, and they'd be like, so what happens? How do people get in and how do people get out? And I'm like, usually doors, but we're working on teleportation. Like, what
Right?
the fuck do you think?
Like, there's doors here, here, here. There's that big one over there.
Yeah. And I think the big problem with me too, and I say this with all due respect, and I say this in a sense that, like, I think they were just uneducated and they had not, there is an ego issue. There is an ego issue. And I think that comes with dealing with someone of my gender and of something that you don't understand. When people are uneducated in it, their ego becomes easier to harm. And when it came to law enforcement, they were okay. And I'm like, but listen. And I mean, some of them met the band. I mean, they were fine on the outskirts of the building, but I had to make it crystal clear to them. And I'm like, unless you are dispatched by 911, you have weapons. I can't let you in. And it's not because I think that, somebody is like the officer who is in control of their gun is going to lose control of their gun. It's because I cannot control what other people do. Aside from that, that's common sense. Aside from that, there's contracts, insurance policies, etc. I have to frisk every single person down at that door. Not me personally. Don't get excited.
No, your team was like,
that will not be happening.
and your team was super respectful about that too.
Yeah, I had 8, and I mean, there was a segment before people got let in the door where I did like so many walkthroughs, and my security team showed up the day before. So, and I needed them familiarized, and we had 3 positions. So when I would dispatch them to position 1, that was entrance, position 2 was steering, and then position 3 was end sweep. And that was when we did everything. And we had no issues, but it was interesting in the middle of an event to look out the windows and see a flock of officials. I'm not even going to say the department. Oh, I did. It was interesting to see the officials, and I'm like, what do you do? They're like, we're making sure it's safe. I'm like, then go downtown, go do where the people are. Like, they're here, but they're all in here safe, and there's 45 security guards.
Yeah.
I had 45 security guards in a 1,500 capacity space.
Yeah, and they were all walking around making sure
male
everybody was
and
good.
Female. There was both genders. There was a first aid station / EMT first responder on scene. 2 of them actually.
Yeah.
My code enforcement guy, who was amazing, he had an unconditional pass. He could go in and out. He felt confident in the operation. I did offer the ability for anybody to go in when I was doing pre-pro the day before to really kind of go over things. I had meetings where I sat down and I gave them, literally hour by hour, 15 by 15 minute power plays of the entire day, down to who was going to be walking where, when, who is the contacts for what was important, and all those factors. Everybody had water. Water was provided. And I don't mean just like, the bands, obviously the riders, all that stuff, but I mean like, water for the staff was there. Everybody, there was bathrooms. Like there was, obviously security had a bathroom. Security had their own green room. And we had an entire green room for first aid, first responders, everything else. So like if something had happened where you'd skinned your knee, you could have just come out and immediately said to any one of my staff, I need this. I need a Band-Aid. I need it. I even had feminine products available.
Nice.
And there was also a sexual assault advocate. Not because I thought anything would happen,
but to be prepared.
Just in case. Like, it's just one of those things where it's like, hey, I'm a girl. What would I want for my daughters? What would I want for my sons? And I mean,
having that resource available there at that time, it makes sense.
The advocate was would do both male or female cases, and especially with having first responder. I mean, like, we're talking like anybody who's listening to this who's worked in music industry is like, holy fuck, that's overkill. And it's like, it is overkill, but in an area that's never done this, that is so hesitant, that is so scared, that, has threatened to destroy any efforts towards these things.
Yeah.
But then when it turned into, oh, wait, that was actually really great. It turned into, well, I can do it too. And it was really interesting because the amount of people that have come to you and said, like, come to me and have said, like, are you offended? So-and-so's doing this now. And I'm like, I think it's great. I think it's great. I think it's wonderful. I think that I hope they continue to do big things. I hope more places do big things. I think to show that people are able to break these markets again.
Yeah.
You just have to understand the demographics of the people. And, going into the Adirondack Park, I think it's really important that anybody who is going to go into the Adirondack Park, and especially you living like such on the hinge and going in all the time too, there is no shame. Like Yamaha, there's several amazing companies that have environmental initiatives to make the carbon footprint of music globally sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
Sign up, join that, have those discussions. Because, yes, those are big things in the grand scheme of things also, but it's also really cool to watch how they've done the research because they have people that are like into that. And it's kind of really neat, and it's a really cool certification or affiliation to have. So when I went into that project, I had my actually when I went into the second board meeting, I had like my resume on hand because there was a lot of people that were like, it's not that they doubted me or questioned me. A lot of them, they had known me. They raised me. I'm a product of you. Like, okay. But it was that it's like, it's a great place. It's a beautiful place. However, there's something to be said about the questions of why certain people will not return that are very largely known. And it has nothing to do with the populace of their family. It has everything to do with the treatment that they received. And that goes back down to the local skill of the DIY scene. Mm-hmm. So when you go back to that and it's like you have somebody who has a CDR that's amazing that would love to see you come back as a Grammy nominated or Grammy winning artist, and you don't feel like you can return home because of the fact that I don't want to say condescending nature, maybe. Mm-hmm. But motherfuckers go outside with their nose up in the air that far, they're going to drown during a rainstorm. That's insane. Yeah. It's insane. So it's just, it says a lot. The DIY scene really does kind of pave the way. And the adult, I don't want to say the adult scene, the larger scene. When I say adult, I mean like full mature. Like, I don't want to say maturity either, because that means that there's like an age definition to it. But I mean like like when your career matures or you start to, come into these different areas where you're matriculating, it's once you get up to that point where you're like, I'm moving between these levels and these projects and becoming a tree and not a stick. It's kind of one of those things where it's just kind of one of those things. You should be able to go home. Yeah. You should be able to go home and not be like, well, Yeah. Just think, there's infinite money there and they can't convince them. And that's what makes things like what you do so important, because you are the media and you are not mass media. No. You are individual, privatized, self-sufficient, strong, opinionated media. I know, power, right? But it's true. Yeah. It just takes one. Like, you do realize that. It's the same thing. It takes one song, takes one hit, takes one bar, takes one anything. It takes one article for people to stop. Mm-hmm. Just works that way. Assuming a deer doesn't take you out on the way. Yeah. or a moose. I've only ever seen one, ever. You've seen two? Mm-hmm. I'm such a shitty almost Canadian.
I don't know. I almost hit a bear on the way to work one day.
I saw one for the second time in like, I mean, don't get me wrong, someone I was hunting, but I mean like in the nature, just doing its bear thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't wearing brightly colored eyeshadow or makeup. It didn't have mascara either.
No mascara at all.
Rude. Rude bear. But it was running across like Route 11. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just kind of driving and then I'm like, go around this curve and I see this bear. I'm like, oh shit. And then I hear mama bear. I'm like,
stay in your car. Stay in your car.
I'm like, windows up.
See, you're like windows up and I'm like, camera out. Like, I'm like, this is, I
didn't have time to like, I wanted to take a picture, but I heard mama bear and then it just was like, oh, I'm like, okay, bye.
Yeah, well, it's because we know that if we fuck with the babies, we will become bear food.
Uh-huh. I'm like, I'm not dealing with mama bear.
I'll be stopping in, like, getting veggies. Like, where's Melissa? I'm like, oh, well.
Well, there was this bear.
And then the first thing out of my mouth will be, it's because she didn't wear brightly colored makeup. Because that's what's just going to happen. And that's just me. And I have terribly dark humor. Thanks. It's the trauma.
Oh my god!
But this has been so fun. So we will have to do this again soon.
Yes. Yes.
We will hop off here because I've taken off a majority of your time.
It's so good.
It's been like, what, like 2 hours? Yeah. So
roughly, yeah. Oh my gosh.
It's been a hot minute.
Yeah.
But we will catch up soon. Keep doing what you're doing. Everyone, head over to Notes on Notes, their website. Google them. If you have a hard time with websites, Google. Worst case scenario, you probably got to my page and ended up on my podcast. So just go that way. Like, I don't care how you do it. There's 1,000 ways to do it. But go check out Notes on Notes and check out some of the stuff that she's producing, these interviews, you know, and a lot of the artists that are coming through and pressing through. Because I think that you might be surprised. And I think it's wonderful. So thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
I would like to thank special guest Mellyssa Woodward for being a part of this episode.
Visit www.whoischristineanyway.com for access to all the social media links and additional podcast episodes.